Confidence breeds success, and success breeds confidence. They go hand in hand. You can't accomplish anything unless you say, oh, I'm a prick, I could never do that. I'm not born to do that. I've learned self-love. No, I don't care how great you are, how much you succeed. Without self-love, you're nothing. Because self-love is discipline.
Confidence breeds success, and success breeds confidence. However, there's a deeper layer to this. In order to become confident, you need discipline. And discipline is the ultimate form of self-love. Not this idea of punishment or suffering, but self-love. And I had to learn this the hard way. For the longest time, I viewed discipline as a trade-off. This idea that if I suffer now and I lock in now, then I can enjoy the fruits of my labor later on in life. So if I just locked in, ignored everything, pushed through this any kind of exhaustion, I'll be free one day. That's how I view discipline. So when I first started studying for the MCAT, I went all in. There was no balance. It was very tunnel visioned. There's basically no real self-care for myself. And at the time, it's crazy. It felt like that all that made sense, that this is what it takes to actually succeed on the exam. But between the ages of 24 and 26, that belief, this idea that discipline is a form of grinding now so I can enjoy the fruits of my labor later, started to break because it burnt me out. So the lesson that I learned here was that if discipline feels like you're constantly fighting yourself and your environment, you're not really creating your future, you are currently destroying your present. So after my first attempt at the MCAT, I received 83rd percentile, and that was good enough to apply. However, I was so burnt out that I couldn't push myself to actually fill out the application that takes 20 minutes to send it to the College of Medicine. So what I ended up doing here was I rebuilt myself. I realized that if I want to be a doctor in the future, I need to do it in a sustainable manner where I'm not jeopardizing my mental health. I'm not jeopardizing who I am as a person and my wellness and my family life. I just hated that feeling. So I rebuilt myself for the next 6 months. And how I did this was I started going back into the gym. I started journaling about my thoughts and what I'm grateful for. I began doing skincare routines, especially with face masks. I started playing basketball again with my friends and even spending more time with my loved ones. And all this brought me back from the dead. I felt like I literally came back from the dead because I wasn't irritated anymore. I felt like myself. I began meditating as well, especially during the times that I was overwhelmed. And then I started creating proper schedule from the studying that did not take me away from my self-care strategies. And this is where I discovered that discipline is actually the ultimate form of self-love. So only after I rebuilt myself in like 6 months is when I actually made a very fluid schedule that wasn't rigid at all. And that was sustainable for me to actually take care of myself and actually study at a high level. So here, what I ended up doing was for the first 6 to 8 weeks, I would only study 4 to 6 hours 5 times a week. And then I would make sure 2 out of the 7 days I would just rest and not do anything and take care of my wellness in general and hang out with family. So that's what I did 6 to 8 weeks, and then I started doing practice exams. And for the medical college admissions test, a practice exam is 8 hours long. So I needed to make sure that I had self-care strategies so that I wouldn't burn out during the exam and during this whole process again. So what I ended up doing here was before a practice exam, I would make sure I meditated. And then during the breaks on the practice exam, I meditated as well. So right after the exam, what I would do is not look at the score at all, turn off my laptop, run straight to the gym, have a nice workout. And then the day after that day, I would just have complete rest day where I would play basketball, spend time with family, do my other self-care strategies, even have a cheat meal because that would be the day in the week that I can actually enjoy myself with food and whatever kind of food I wanted to eat. So it was a really fun process. And then after my rest day is when I started back into studying and looked at all my mistakes and how can I improve upon them and reflected on the exam. So that's how I made this whole process more sustainable. And I actually performed in the 90th percentile after this was all said and done. But this time it included no crazy amount of Red Bull, no crazy amount of caffeine. I wasn't burnt out. I was sleeping really well. Even the night before the exam, I slept like a baby, did not require any melatonin and did not require any Red Bulls during the actual exam as well. I I had my morning coffee, and during the exam, I would just meditate or journal or just relax and just eat my food. So it made it a lot more fun and sustainable, and I scored the 90th percentile the second time. So if you look at this on paper, the 90th percentile is a great score, and it will get me into most medical schools in Canada and the US. However, internally, I felt like I could have performed a lot better. And this wasn't from this idea that I'm very competitive or anything. It just, during my practice exams, when I was doing the reflection on them and was actually looking at my mistakes, they were very careless mistakes. And this was literally separating me from the 90th percentile to the 95th plus percentile. And even with my self-care strategies and the habits that I was building, the lifestyle changes such as meditation, journaling, exercising, I wasn't really that consistent with them. I was doing them every third or fourth day or during practice exams. However, I felt like I knew the benefits of this and how it made me feel in real time. However, I wasn't doing it daily. And that inconsistency was kind of like making me fight with myself, because I realized, like, if I want to be a doctor and I want to be able to critically think during my 24-hour overnight calls and 24-hour days, because there are going to be those days, I need to be able to at least make my habits consistent and make these little changes that I'm making in my life very consistent. And they only take 10 minutes, and then I have to critically think for more than 10 minutes, like 24 hours. So I was thinking, like, if I really want to be a doctor, there's something missing here. So I began reflecting on this after the MCAT and after my applications. And then it wasn't until the actual interview where I performed really poorly the first time and got rejected in May from medical school at that time. And that's when I realized that there's something missing in my concentration. Like, I'm not able to concentrate for longer periods of time, and I need to fix that. So after my rejection letter, I decided to write the MCAT one more time. And then during that summer is which led to the discovery halfway through my studying for the MCAT of my ADHD. And this completely changed everything. So I'm going to be talking about this in the next video of like how I discovered my ADHD and what it led to in terms of my results, and how it changed my viewpoint on discipline from the self-love to something even way more powerful than self-love that led me to my potential at the moment. So if this or if anything I post resonates with you, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Also share these videos with other individuals as well. This helps push my story further, and it can maybe help someone else that is struggling with discipline and this idea of just working harder and not enjoying the present moment. And then it can help them, empower them too, and then grow as I've been growing. So thank you so much for your time. I appreciate each and every one of you and your messages, and I will see you in the next video and also in our deep work sessions. And don't forget, let's continue to grow together.